Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we are going to be talking about March Madness. You know, that crazy NCAA men's basketball
Yeah.
tournament. Buzzer beaters and all that.
A Cinderella run.
It's exciting. But today, we're going to actually kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about something that maybe doesn't always get talked about as much.
Right.
And that's the mental health aspect of March Madness for these players.
Yeah,
You know, this isn't just any other tournament for these guys.
definitely.
The pressure is completely different than anything they face all year long.
I think what makes March Madness so unique is just the incredible amount of pressure that these players are under.
Yeah.
Just think about it for a second. For weeks, these young men are under the microscope.
Right.
Every single play that they make is being dissected by fans,
Oh, yeah.
by coaches, by scouts,
Their jobs.
whose jobs might depend on the success of the team
Right.
and their future in the NBA too, right?
Yeah, and that's a really good point because this isn't just about this season for a lot of these athletes.
Yeah.
This is their last shot at this level.
Right.
This is their last chance to make a statement before they potentially move on to the pros or onto a whole different chapter of their lives.
Yeah, it's like their one shining moment, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's not just a feeling.
Right.
I mean, the statistic is that over 70% of college athletes report experiencing extreme stress during March Madness.
That's a huge number. And I think that really underscores a connection we often overlook, which is that our mental well-being and our physical performance are so deeply intertwined.
Okay, so let's talk about that spotlight.
Yeah.
Because March Madness puts these players on this absolutely massive stage.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking national television audiences.
Social media is going crazy.
Social media is blowing up. All these major news outlets are dissecting every single game. These are young individuals suddenly facing a level of public scrutiny that most of us can't even imagine.
And it's relentless. I mean, the pressure to deliver, under that kind of intense visibility, it's immense.
It really is.
They're not just playing for themselves, they're playing for their teammates, their coaches, who have poured countless hours into their development, the entire university, the fan base.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot to carry on your shoulders.
That's a tremendous weight of expectation.
Absolutely.
It is. And as you mentioned, the impact on their future careers can be dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
A standout performance in this tournament can actually, elevate a player's profile in the eyes of NBA scouts.
Right.
You know,
Put them on the map.
put them on the map. Yeah. And potentially alter their entire professional trajectory.
Yeah.
But, the opposite can also happen. A poor showing, even if it's just a couple of tough games, that can create some serious self-doubt and anxiety about their future prospects.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is that the tournament's format, that sudden death format, it actually amplifies this pressure even more.
Oh, yeah.
Because unlike a longer regular season, where you might have more opportunities to recover from a setback, a single bad game in March Madness can end your season.
It's over. Yeah.
And for some players, they feel like it could derail their dreams, right?
Right.
So that immediate consequence adds just this unique psychological burden.
It does. And we also have to talk about the physical demands.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these tournaments, these guys are playing multiple high-stakes games, very little rest in between.
Back to back sometimes.
Yes, sometimes they're playing back-to-back.
Yeah.
And that's incredible intensity. So these players are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. They're dealing with fatigue, potential injuries, the constant need to perform at their peak physically.
And we know that impacts them mentally as well.
It absolutely does, yeah. And it's just this perfect storm for both physical and mental exhaustion.
Right. And the mind and body function as a unit, right?
Yeah.
So when you have all this physical fatigue, that can also lower your resilience to stress.
Wow.
So it makes athletes more susceptible to anxiety, to negative thoughts. And that compounds the mental pressures they're already facing.
So you put it all together, the spotlight, the pressure to perform,
Yeah.
the potential, life-changing implications for their careers, and the physical toll.
It's a lot.
It's no surprise that March Madness is this emotional roller coaster for these athletes.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I mean, the emotional highs that come with hitting that game-winning shot, achieving an unexpected victory, those are so powerful.
Yeah.
There's a surge of euphoria, a sense of collective triumph.
But then the pendulum can swing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just as dramatically in the other direction.
Right.
A missed free throw in the final seconds.
A turnover.
A critical turnover, at a key moment.
Yeah.
These can trigger some intense feelings of disappointment, a sense of having let down
Yeah.
their teammates and everyone that supports them.
Right, right. And the emotional shifts, are rapid.
Yeah.
They're often extreme.
So what's really significant is the intensity of these emotional swings.
Right.
The highs can be so high,
Yeah.
which makes the potential lows feel even more devastating.
Yeah.
And this constant fluctuation can be just mentally and emotionally draining.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It requires a lot of resilience to navigate.
It really does.
Yeah.
And, I'm curious, what happens after the tournament ends?
Yeah.
Because regardless whether a team is celebrating a national championship
Right.
or facing an early exit, the emotional aftermath has got to be substantial.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not just about that final game.
Right.
It's a culmination of months, maybe years of
Okay.
intense dedication and sacrifice and hard work.
Yeah.
And for those who are fortunate enough to reach the pinnacle,
They win it all.
they win it all. There's immense joy, there's satisfaction. But even then, there can be a sense of finality, right? As the season ends
Yeah.
and new uncertainties emerge.
And then for those teams that don't win,
Right.
that are eliminated, particularly in close games or maybe unexpected losses,
Right.
these players can experience a whole range of really tough emotions,
Yeah.
from grief
Yeah.
over the end of their season and their time playing together,
Right.
to self-doubt about their performance,
Yeah.
and then anxiety about what's next.
Exactly.
Those feelings of grief, doubt, uncertainty, I mean, those are heavy burdens to carry for anyone,
Oh, yeah.
especially for young athletes who have invested so much of themselves into this one defining event.
Absolutely.
So this brings us to, really the core of our discussion today.
Right.
And that's the mental health challenges that can surface during this period of just intense pressure and scrutiny.
Yeah. The reality is that many athletes will face, heightened levels of anxiety, feelings of sadness or even depression and a sense of burnout
Yeah.
during March Madness. I mean, the constant pressure to perform, the fear of failure, under such a public microscope, the emotional volatility of the tournament.
Right.
I mean, it all creates this kind of breeding ground for these challenges to emerge.
And I think a major obstacle in even addressing these challenges is the stigma surrounding mental health in sports.
Yeah, definitely.
There's this kind of unspoken expectation to project an image
Yeah.
of unwavering mental toughness.
You got to be tough.
Yeah. To just push through any difficulty. Players worry about being perceived as weak
Yeah.
or letting their team down if they admit to struggling with their mental well-being.
And that stigma can be so detrimental.
Yeah.
It prevents athletes from getting the help that they need
Right.
because they're afraid, being judged, being perceived as weak
By coaches,
by teammates.
teammates, fans.
Yeah. And so they might feel isolated in their struggles.
Yeah.
They might think they're the only one who's going through this, in this environment. And,
Right.
and that's just not true.
Yeah. Thankfully, we are starting to see a shift in this area, right?
Yeah.
Mirroring some of the broader changes in how we talk about mental health.
Yeah.
More and more athletes are being incredibly brave, I think,
Mhm.
and stepping up and talking about their own mental health journeys.
It's huge.
It's so important because it helps destigmatize these issues.
Absolutely.
It lets other athletes know they're not alone.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing some universities, some athletic programs start to dedicate more resources to mental health support.
It's encouraging to see.
It's really encouraging.
Yeah, there's definitely this growing awareness, right? And this investment, this understanding that we need to support the well-being of these athletes.
Yeah.
Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too.
So what are some practical steps that we can take as fans, as a community, to really support these athletes during this time?
Well, I think, a fundamental step is to just continue normalizing the conversation about mental health in sports.
Okay.
We got to make sure that everyone understands that mental well-being is just as critical as physical health.
Right.
That seeking support when you're struggling is a sign of strength and self-awareness.
Right.
Not weakness.
A weakness.
Yeah, and we have to create an environment where athletes feel comfortable talking about their challenges.
Right.
Without feeling judged.
So, yeah, talking about it more, but then beyond just talking about it, we have to make sure that there are resources available.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to make sure that athletes have access to qualified mental health professionals who understand the pressures of competitive sports, right?
Right.
because it's different.
It is different, yeah.
It's a unique set of pressures.
And on a broader cultural level,
Mm-hmm.
as fans, I think we can also play a role by kind of consciously shifting our focus a little bit.
Okay.
It's natural to be excited about the competition.
Yeah, of course.
We want our teams to win.
Yeah.
But we can also make a conscious effort to appreciate the dedication, the effort, the sportsmanship of these young athletes.
Right.
Regardless of the outcome of a game,
Absolutely.
acknowledging that pressure and approaching their experiences with empathy, that can make a huge difference.
It can. It really can. And it's also about how we engage with them online and in person, right?
Yeah.
We have to show respect. We have to offer support.
Even when things don't go their way on the court.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, these are young people navigating a very, very high-stakes environment.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we're all caught up in the excitement of the game.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, they're human beings.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. Recognizing their humanity is key to creating a supportive environment.
Yeah. So to wrap up our deep dive, it's clear that the pressure cooker of March Madness has this profound and often overlooked impact on the mental health of these college athletes.
The spotlight, the pressure to perform, the extreme highs and lows all contribute to this significant mental and emotional toll.
And it's just a good reminder, isn't it, that while we love the excitement and the spectacle of the tournament, we've got to remember that there's a human element at its core.
These are young individuals carrying a lot of responsibility.
Navigating incredibly challenging circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And, it really makes you think, doesn't it? We're always focused on the wins. We're focused on the excitement.
Yeah.
Could that actually be overshadowing the well-being of the athletes themselves?
It's a good question.
It is. And I think it's a question that we all have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
What responsibility do we have as fans? What responsibility do the institutions have in addressing this really vital aspect of their experience?
Yeah.
It's something to think about. The next time you're watching that game-winning shot goes in,
Yeah.
What are these players going through?
It's a whole other side of the story
It is.
we don't often think about.
Thanks for listening, everybody.